Hello, this is Jason T. Ingram. I am documenting a time in my life when I'm getting my career back after having been living on support for about the last 10 years. And it's been a trip. And I could say that a lot of it has to do with this one word. It's about being empowered. And it's kind of a tacky word if you're a man and you're talking about empowerment, because a lot of people view us as already being in power. And for the most part, that's true, because I'm not a woman. I don't know what it's like. I grew up around a lot of hardcore feminism too. So for a man to be empowered was kind of a silly thing. And then there was, fire in the belly, and then Iron John came out, and I think that was the early 90s when the men's movement came out. And it just seemed like it was a bunch of, for lack of a better term, henpecked, cowardly men who were trying to find a way to get their power back without hurting other people. And so I'm in that right now. How do I get my power back? Or basically not power that I'm getting back, it's power that I've never had. And trying not to overpower people, because there's two types of power. I could share my power, I can empower others, or I could overpower them. And a lot of people who are in power have gotten there because they've trampled on others. There's other people who have gotten to a place of power because others have lifted them up to a place because they were all lifting each other up together. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish. And at the same time, I'm living in a community and basically a world where there is a lot of injustice, a lot of unfairness. And there's this sort of survival of the fittest sort of a thing too. So it's very difficult in order to try to maintain that balance, because recently I have been coming into this place of owning my power and tapping into my own personal power. And it has hurt some people and myself as I sort of experiment with my own boundaries and stuff. Now, mind you, I haven't done anything to really damage anybody. I've just made a couple mistakes, and sometimes I speak out of term a little bit. And then sometimes there's situations where somebody's overpowering me, and they do it in a way that's so clever that you don't know it. So, for instance, if somebody's in a room and they yell something out about, oh, why don't we let other, and it sounds nice, but really what they're saying is, we need to just make sure this guy shut up because he's being selfish. And so anyways, that happened recently, and I called this guy out. And he said, hey, I just have a couple questions, and then I'll shut up, and we have enough time to deal with it. And that got him to be quiet. But I hate to have to do that. But in this culture, we're a very passive-aggressive culture on the West Coast, especially in Portland. I call it the buckle of the unchurched belt. And we are the people that make it a priority not to offend other people. Now, that works until you have other people that need to be corrected or dealt with, or things need to be discussed. Unfortunately, what happens is that if there's a conflict and there's somebody in power, and if it's in this culture particularly, and if they take a passive-aggressive approach, there's usually no discussion. It typically ends in the most horrible thing that has been happening in my life lately, which is being ignored. And yes, if people ignore me, I used to just shut up. I used to just give up and say, they're not going to listen. It's not worth my breath. And then there comes a time when, if somebody has been told to shut up for their whole life or most of their life, and they're being silenced, and they're being ignored, and they're being thrown to the side, or whatever it is, then eventually those people are going to rise up. So that's a good example of when you have riots in the street. People as a whole are basically saying, hey, we've had enough, we're tired. So that was basically 2016 for me, and 2015, was me just saying, wow, I've been overpowered by bullies a lot of my life, and now I'm being overpowered by people who don't act like bullies. They act like very well-spoken professionals and educated people, and they're even often providers in situations where they're caring for others. And those can almost be the most dangerous people, because you get somebody like me who's a real loudmouth and short-tempered, and when I'm having panic attacks and people are pushing my buttons, I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. I lose control over my will when my body is in panic mode. And when I talk about these things to other people, especially those that have never ever experienced anything quite like this before, I am in danger of them basically judging my motives. So it's very difficult, and it's puts me in a vulnerable situation when I talk about the challenges and the limitations that I have on a cognitive level to function like most people do. So a lot of the things that have been on my mind lately about trying to be empowered, trying to basically get the life that I feel like I deserve based on the experience and the price that I have paid to get where I'm at today. I'm in an unfair playing field because I have unfair disadvantages, and yet I'm in a situation where I'm pretty much forced to, in most situations, especially in the entertainment business, to be playing on equal ground with people that not only have a lot higher functioning cognitive abilities and physical abilities, but they also have a lot more social status. And many of them, and I hate to say, but I've really, really experienced this too, especially entertainers, is that they want to be on top. And they want it so bad, especially if they are on top, they want to stay on top. And it is really freaky, the kind of things that some people are willing to do to maintain their social status and their reputation. So that's some of the stuff that I've been recovering with. And it has brought up so much rage and anger and hurt. And mostly what I get is silence. And that's scary. That's scary when you're doing business with somebody and, you're going back and forth and they're telling you all these good things and you think that the lines of communication are open, and then suddenly they disappear and they won't return messages and da-da-da. And I understand that when I'm soliciting people, it gets annoying. They don't understand. I'm basically asking them for their time, and time is very valuable. Most people don't want to spend the time to look deep into things. Most people don't want to spend the time to look deep into a situation, especially if they feel like there's something or somebody that is threatening anything about their lives. Even if I'm not threatening somebody's safety, I'm still making somebody feel like I'm threatening their reputation. If they were to associate with somebody who lives with a mental illness, then there's always that thought of, ooh, do I want this person in my life? If he's crazy, then people might think I'm crazy. So there's a lot of things that go on in people's minds that I have to be aware of. And I have to guard myself too, because once somebody's made up their mind that somebody is a threat, I can't change their mind. Now, unfortunately, I do kind of fuck with people sometimes too, because when I notice that, once they've had this look on their eye, or somebody called it the stiff upper lip, a fellow I used to hang out with who's very, very low functioning. And, oh gosh, and it's hard because he's dealt with a lot of rejection, more than I have, and he can tell. Once, and he's, after you've had a lifetime of people ignoring you, then you get this feeling that, okay, what's going to happen now? And da-da-da-da-da. And then sometimes I don't pick up on it too, because somebody might have this, okay, I love you, let's talk, and then you kind of get this idea that, wait a minute, they're shutting me out, but they're pretending not to. And then if they say they're going to do something and they don't follow up on it, it could be a lot of different reasons, but when it's for the purpose of basically saying no and shutting out a mentally disabled person, then I don't think that people realize how abusive that is. And I never really realized how abusive that is too, because I got that when I came out of the closet. And then 10 years later, I get it for coming out of the closet as a disabled person. So it's very, very painful and tedious, and I could say it's agony trying to deal with this stuff, but I'm still going. So, yay.